Welcome into another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No fucking way is that a gimme, right?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, just like we like it, nice and early on a Monday morning. Here we go at 9 a.m. Eastern time for Gas Morning Drive. I'm Andy Gresh, Jason Anik. How are you, friend?
I'm good. Love the black and white.
Dude,
what's that? I live in South Florida. Yeah, out for a little jog, get a little sun. But as much as I love this black and white from Cody Merrow, right? As much as I love that, I love that almost as much as 9 a.m. Gas Morning Drive, where we're meant to be. We're going to try and keep it at 9 a.m. Moving forward. But it's great to see you, brother. As always, can't wait to get into all sorts of things.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's funny. There's a lot going on, but there's not a lot going on in Boston sports right now, unless you care about, the NCAA, like men's college hockey tournament or something to that effect that like Providence College is playing in. Here's the wildness of NCAA tournaments in any sport. Okay. We have Quinnipiac playing Providence College in freaking like Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's just the region they got sent to. It's crazy. We have the NCAA men's tournament going on right now. And one of the big stories of the tournament was High Point. They're in North Kakalaki. They're playing in the Great Northwest. They had not one, but two planefuls of crazy fans fly out there. That's just, and we will never, ever in New England. This is one of those things like the DiMaggio hitting streak. It will never happen. There will never be a team from in or around Boston. There will be no team other than UConn that will ever win a college basketball national championship that would be connected to Boston. So it is 0.0% chance that we would ever see like BU make a run or BC go to the Sweet 16.
I was in the building, and I know maybe it got taken away from them, but the John Calipari-led University of Massachusetts Amherst Minutemen,
never again.
Marcus Camby and Carmelo Travieso, and
look how much cheating that MFer had to do to get UMass just to a Final Four. Well, that's kind of what we're, and I love Frank Martin, the coach at UMass. He's like my kind of guy. He's an old school coach, but no, never. It's the one thing that we will as New England sports fans, we've experienced a lot, as we know, we will never experience a college basketball national championship. It is impossible to beat the Blue Bloods. If you're at if you're UConn, you've invested in it. But if you're anybody else, forget about it.
Well, I'm fine with that. Like, as a sports fan from New England, I'll take the professional championships, and it is what it is. If I never have an NCAA champ, I'm still enjoying this tournament. I'm enjoying betting on it. One thing
are.
I'm sort of even, nothing crazy up or down.
All right.
I probably less than even, but nothing crazy. But so what I'll tell you that's sort of interesting is I don't know if you know Matty Betts on X, right? Matt Tanner, right? But so he puts $1,000 on every underdog, right, in this tournament, right? Now, obviously, if you get some big ones coming in, right? Sienna was up on Duke, right? He's covered his face. Gresh.
Well, because I know what happened on Saturday.
Friday. Favorites went 16-0.
Yeah.
And he was on all dogs. Now, I like getting behind him a little bit. I've had conversations with him. I say, how about we just take out the ones and twos and do the same thing, right? Keep that little bit of money, right? And he's like, no, you just got to go all out. But yeah, not a lot of dog. Cody put in the chat, worst tourney of all time. I mean, when you got Texas alive as an 11 seed, but pretty chalky, a lot of blowouts. I'm kind of with you, Cody.
Now, here's the thing. What in the world do people want? So if High Point made the Sweet 16, it would then be an exciting tournament. Like that.
Now.
No, but I'm just narrowing it down, right? Because the way people, because I've been talking about this for like 4 days. I did it pretty much all day on Mad Dog Radio. But I asked people, it was like, well, first of all, define a Cinderella, okay? Because we had an 11 seed NC State make the Final Four a couple years ago. They're a big name brand, but they're an 11 seed. So if that 11 seed said VCU, people's dicks would get hard over this tournament.
Well, I can define a Cinderella. I think I can define it, right? So to me, Texas as an 11 seed in the Sweet 16, Cinderella. Tennessee there as a 6 seed, Cinderella. Iowa as a 9 seed, Cinderella at this point. And if any of those 3 teams advances, it can little bit of a Cinderella story, but it's fun for me to get to know some of these players when I invest in this tournament, because we all talk about bandwidth, how much we can ingest of any of these sports. I talk to you about, you do these national radio shows where you got to be able to dabble in everything. I couldn't begin to know where you start with the National Hockey League, et cetera, et cetera. You know,
I just say this. I think your definition of Cinderella is very different from others. I think it's
Fair.
the whole,
You're right.
but it's the whole small college feel. But that's why I kind of push back on the whole, well, what is it? Is it the seed, or is it, are you a name brand? Because I think Texas spent $13 million on their roster this year. So a lot of people will be like, look,
right.
Providence, here's the thing. Here's what's crazy. If Providence College had made the tournament and they replaced, say, Texas as an 11 seed, people would have a bigger feel of them being a Cinderella because they're from the Big East. They're not a Power Four. They don't have football. Dude, it's crazy. When people criticize this tournament, I'm like, what in the world are you? Now, listen, if you wanted chaos, you didn't get the chaos of a 15 seed. But have we also looked at the matchups for this upcoming weekend? Dude, the matchups are what we want.
Yes, and before we get into that, I just want to say, people have these selective memories. Santa Clara versus Kentucky, if that was the matchup, I think I'm accurate there, right? So Santa Clara hits a clean 3.
Yeah.
3-4 seconds left. Coach is trying to call. Coach is
Mm-hmm.
trying to call timeout. I understand the official didn't see him, whatever happened. You know, they certainly could have fouled before getting the shot off to sort of put, and then Kentucky obviously moves on and has since been eliminated. But yeah, some really good matchups here and some fun coaches. I mean, anytime John Calipari's alive, it's fun. The fact that you got Rick Pitino in this tournament still, right? Yep.
Yeah.
That's exciting against Duke. Tom Izzo. I mean, yeah, really some good matchups left.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That's really what I'm excited for, Jay, is the fact that we're going to get high level games.
Yeah,
we're going to
Hoiberg,
get some.
Yeah,
I mean, Hoiberg's as good as anybody. And how about Nebraska? Like, you know, you talk about like what a story.
Dude.
Arizona against Arkansas.
Yeah,
Houston.
so Nebraska. I'm sure those tuning in realize they had never won an NCAA tournament game ever, the Cornhuskers, and they've now won 2. Some of these radio broadcasters been around since before I was born. Just crazy stories out there.
I have one Final Four team that went kaput. Florida completely screwed me yesterday.
Yeah.
Not only did I give them out on VEASAN, and they took a 4-point lead at one point with about 3 minutes to go, and I'm like, okay, here's where they're going to fix it. And nope, they didn't fix it. Perimeter defense still an issue. Couldn't make a shot consistently. Florida gets bounced. That was yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be the hindsight 2020 guy, but they won the whole thing last year. Inevitably, I felt like it was going to be tough. But I hear you. They were a good team. Yeah, that Texas point you made is really interesting about how much money they spend just because they underachieve in the regular season, then become an 11 seed. They're fucking Cinderella for me. So, Gresh, I did bet on Texas to win this region. at 30-1. I think maybe after they won their first game. I don't think they're going to do so. But are there any teams out there that have a plus number there, or forget, or any teams out there that aren't chalky that you think could make a run? I told you I played Iowa State 22.5-1 to win the whole thing before it started. The big man's banged up, didn't hurt them in that round of 32. Anything jump out at you? I know you liked Iowa State too.
Well, yeah, I did. And here's the problem is that the number one seeds named Duke, Michigan, and Arizona have been a favorite forever. So you're not going to find great value unless you just think that, say, unless you think St. John's is going to beat Duke, and then maybe you take a chance with them. Really, the only bet on the board that makes sense is Houston plus 130 to win that South region, Jay. Yeah, because Arizona, Michigan, and Duke were the big three going into this tournament. So you're not really going to be able to
leave it there, Cody.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you wanted to take Duke, Michigan, and Arizona and bet if I don't think it'll let you bet the winners of regions in a parlay.
I'm with you, but it's a little chalky for me. The South region, keep that South region up there if you don't mind, Cody. Gresh, for Nebraska, right? We talk about Hoiberg being the coach and his son, fifth-year senior Sam Hoiberg. Fascinating, the draw there, right? Houston, the toughest out there. Nebraska certainly could beat Iowa and Illinois any given Sunday, if you will, right? That Houston may be a tough out, but fascinating. Who do they have first? Do they have Houston right out of the gate?
So it's Illinois against Houston, and then Nebraska and Iowa. So that's why Nebraska could be frisky. I mean, getting to the Elite Eight, that step counts, and you look at,
amazing.
Are they just going to win that game? Nebraska is a 2.5-point favorite right now. I mean, that's juicy. It is if you're looking to take a flyer. The problem with this tournament was, you're picking a Final Four, and three of most everybody's teams are already locked. There are very few, unless you just did a contrarian bracket. Right. Most people weren't going away from Michigan, Duke, or Arizona. Houston is the next team that really can kind of slide in there and play at that level. But even I did the show on VSiN yesterday, and I think Houston was still 8.5-1 to win the whole thing. That might be your value play now, is to see what number you can get on Houston, maybe to win the whole thing. Now that's a lot, and you're going away from those number ones that I just talked about, but that's probably going to be the only value that would be left out there in terms of betting tournament futures or things like that.
Yeah. I love what happened to Duke in the first round. I love that for their sort of, Duke plus 450 here. I'm seeing down here, the only game in town, Florida Hard Rock bet. I kind of like Duke to win the whole thing. I think there's a little value there. I think it ends for Rick Pitino and the Johnnies.
My pick is Duke. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, that St. John's game, that's going to be an awesome bloody battle. Yeah. The way St. John's plays, St. John's and UConn. Why St. John's and UConn are different is because the league they play in. It's as simple as that. The Big East gets you ready for the NCAA tournament. It's always physical. There's almost always some level of, physical edge that is won by those Big East teams. The problem is one of the Big East teams gets Duke, and the other one in UConn has been up and down, and they get the pleasure of going against Tom Izzo in Michigan State.
I love it. All right, let's move on to our topics. I could talk tournament all day with you, but catch Gresh, the VSiN 9-12 Sunday morning. If you don't have Sirius XM, remind me how to get this. Nesson Plus, is that right?
Yeah, we're on Nesson Plus. If you have like Nesson 360 and you're in, Walla Walla, Washington or something like that, I think you can get Nesson Plus even on that as well. It's Sirius XM channel 158. I know it's streamed on iHeartRadio. They have a VSiN Watch app that you can sign up for. So if you subscribe to be a pro,
what I need is the VSiN Watch app.
If you subscribe, if you're a pro subscriber, then you'll be able to get the stream right away. At worst, I think through that you're able to stream the audio. But thank you.
All right, so I love it. So, Gresh, I want to just start here with this AJ Brown to the Patriots, and I'll let you wax poetic all you want. But I just want to tell you my thesis statement, and maybe this is a little bit short-sighted or misinformed, but this need that they need this sort of narrative that they need this alpha number one receiver. It just has always fallen on deaf ears for me this offseason. I think they have a deep receiving core. Tell me who Brady's best receiver was, who ever won a title. I know you had Gronkowski, but I could go on and on. I'm not looking for that necessarily. I'm looking more for the overall dynamics in the locker room. I understand Vrabel and AJ Brown have a relationship. I would have loved Max Crosby. I don't really necessarily want AJ Brown. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have an overwhelming feeling that they need to go get this player. I would argue that Elijah Vera Tucker was a more important signing than AJ Brown because of what it means to the rest of the offensive line and putting a Pro Bowl player in between two young guys who really played their ass off on the left side last year. I think that was, that and getting more defensive line help. That to me is where this team kind of needs to go right now. And Jay, when you think about it, New England has always found an undrafted corner in camp or something like that to be able to add to that room. You're hoping you could do it with an offensive lineman, maybe find an undrafted guy that you can throw on the practice squad incubator for 10 weeks and then bust somebody out late in the year if you need it. I don't think you need to shift a bunch of these assets into that position for that particular player at that price. If I'm being honest with you, Jay, I don't know if New England is as hung up on the draft pick as they are the money and the guarantee and the rest of the contract moving forward. Giving up a late first rounder for a player like this, it would not be the end of the world. I don't think it would be a complete waste of a pick. But I think part of the reason nothing has happened is A, the implications on the Philly salary cap, and B, can New England get the player at the right price? And that second objective is harder because Philly would really love to wait. So if you're the player, it becomes, oh my God, I'm a hostage in Philly. I want to get out of here. I'll shave $5 million or whatever in the world it is to make the Patriots happy. I think that's what everyone is hoping. And if you're AJ Brown, you're just sitting there saying, no, you all want me. I shouldn't have to do shit other than, call a moving company and get to wherever you're going to send me to.
Good stuff there. If I'm the Patriots, I do believe if the Patriots have any thoughts connected to what I think, meaning that they really could sort of go either way here, then therein lies your leverage, and you just sort of sit on your hands a little bit. To your point, like to the asset, to give up too much of an asset to bring AJ Brown back, whereas Stephon Diggs. Do I think he could have become a problem in the locker room at some point? Perhaps. Do I think he could come back still? Perhaps. But the idea that AJ Brown could come in and be a problem, that's not outrageous. Certainly he could come in and be a problem to that locker room. So to me, I'd be pretty sensitive to that. And I'm steadfast on my belief in Booty and Kyle Williams and wanting them to have a runway. So for me, it's like, I don't want this guy. I really don't. I can't believe I'm saying it.
Here's the other part of this too. What is the want within the organization? Like, are there, are the general managers sitting there and saying, oh my God, we got to go get this guy. And then everybody in the room turns to Mike Vrabel and then says, hey, can you handle him?
Right.
Or is it Mike Vrabel, the lone person in the organization who is having dinners with Kraft and stuff like that, trying to tell everyone, oh yeah, I can handle that guy. Oh, if we got him, I can. Like, is it Vrabel that is pushing it because of the relationship? Are there other people in the organization who say, no, we got to go get this guy? Look, for fantasy and for all these fucknuts on Twitter, who are I got the best Patriots Homer page going, like all these assholes. They want it because it sounds great for fantasy. But in reality, it's pushing a $25 million chip onto your roster right now, who, as you mentioned, Jay, has had some issues, let's say, just in terms of managing himself, mixing in with teammates. Does he or does he not want the football? All that kind of stuff. Do you really need to be pushing that on Drake May here in year 3? And Jay, the other thing too is you're going to have to pay Christian Gonzalez. So you're going to need two $30 million chunks bare minimum at some point. Drake May is going to go from like $8 million to like 55 or whatever. So 75. Can New England, whatever it is? Oh, no, I'm talking about the year on the option on the contract, right? Because when you get the 5th-year guys, that's where you allegedly get the 5th-year bargain. The problem is the player goes from like $9 million in cap accounting to like $50 million in a year. So, they got to be tricky about that if they want to extend Gonzalez. Now, let me give you the scenario in which New England could get the very best roster, but kind of fuck everybody over at the same time. All right. So hear me out. Christian Gonzalez, 1st-round pick. You have 4 years that's controllable, the 5th-year option, which balloons, and then they could have a year of franchise tag with him because New England's not known for really signing 7-year deals. So let's say they figure out whatever they need to figure out with A.J. Brown. The balloon is coming for Drake May. So do you kind of kick other cans down the road a little bit and tell Christian Gonzalez, we're not going to extend you after year 3 like others have. We're going to play the slow game with you. We're going to let your contract kind of run out, let that rookie deal sort of run out, pick up the club option, franchise him to be able to make sure there's enough money to go around to extend what would be Bill Campbell and Drake May. Now, again, most teams just say to hell with it. We have 3 great players. We'll spend $100 million on 3 guys, and then they'll kind of screw themselves. I don't necessarily want to see New England do that, but I'd love to see them keep all these players. But there is a way for them to kind of add A.J. Brown, deal with the heavier parts of his contract, but you do it by maybe upsetting a player or 2 on the roster because you're not giving them their flowers.
Great stuff all around there. And finally, I'll just say in terms of, obviously I've made my statements about A.J. Brown and not really necessarily wanting him, but I trust Sean McVay, and obviously it was paramount to him to have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, that ridiculous 1-2 punch. And if you're telling me that Patriots can have A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs, a 1 and 2 better than anything they had last year, that does make me smile. But I'm sort of with you. You talked about both lines to begin with, and that's the offensive and defensive line, and that's just what's in my brain too.
Yeah, if they're going to spend money along the line of scrimmage. And by the way, that would include another tight end. Now, I don't think we're going to see that. I think the offensive roster that they have right now, it's either adding A.J. Brown or it kind of is what it is. You've got your starting offensive line. You got Ben Brown as an interior swing guy. You still need to find a swing tackle. Your running back spot's all set. You have a complement of wide receivers that most fans believe in and who did really good things last year. I don't know. I got a sneaking suspicion that unless it's the perfect person for the perfect role on offense, this might be a big defensive draft.
Yeah, I like how they've handled the free agency. I think I just have a great trust in that group, right? And even when you talk about A.J. Brown and, is Mike Vrabel the guy saying, we got to get him? I actually would venture to say they probably are all on fairly the same page in a lot of ways, right? Where they both see the value, see the temptation, but also don't want to mortgage the farm. So yeah, the draft's going to be interesting. I don't follow college closely enough to have a good feel here, but ultimately I want a dynamic tight end. That's what or a middle linebacker. That's what you keep talking
That,
about.
you know what, the middle linebacker, that continues to scream at me. And if you are going to go at the end of the first round in a little bit of a different direction, right? Say it's a guy who you could probably take at 35, but instead you take him at 31, or you slide back to get that player so they're appropriately drafted, and you don't have that 50-year sword of Damocles kind of held over your head. I think there are opportunities for the Patriots to be pretty selective here, but I believe edge, they're going to be tempted. There'll be an edge player that they'll probably be able to get at that bottom of the first round, who, if you look at K'Lavon Chaisson going out the door, maybe that's the new version of him, is a late first round pick, somebody who can come in and kind of help you get after the quarterback. I think they're going to draft some D-line depth. I really do, Jay. I think if there is an interior defensive tackle or really an edge player who could come in and maybe not be plug and play, but get on the lineup or get in the lineup by week 6 or 7 of the regular season, now we're talking. But it's really interesting how NFL free agency on the first day, well, the first day of tampering, whatever bullshit that is, they went from 0 to 60 pretty quick.
Right.
And it also went from 60 back to 0 pretty quick.
Right.
It's like it was like 3 or 4 days of fury, and then the car ran out of gas and you left it on the side of the road, because now a lot of the sexy names are gone. They've already been plucked, and we know what happened with Crosby in Vegas. So it doesn't look like he's going anywhere now. Hendrickson's off the market. That was never really an option for New England. They draft an edge at 31 before they pay a guy $30 million. So it's funny. We had like 4 days of land rush when it came to free agency. And now it's like, no, we're shopping through the B and C bin, which is what New England needs to do, by the way. Continue to shop for those mid-level veterans that can help make the middle to back part of your roster playable.
You know, we sit here on March 23rd, all of a sudden the draft, all of a sudden things are just going to accelerate quickly. But well before that, Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, May 16th, Netflix. And frankly, this topic could very well say Diaz versus Perry.
This
versus
card,
Mike
bro.
Perry.
And they got Ngannou in there too. Like, this card is turning into something now.
So you heard Joe Rogan say that he heard Nate Diaz is making north of $10 million.
Oh my.
And that would not shock me. And while I don't necessarily think Mike Perry maybe is getting quite that bag, I hope my boy Mike Perry get taken care of too, right? Give my boy Mike Perry at least half of that. Come on. But just unbelievable. Like, you know, it's interesting. We talk about my brother John always talks about bouts of consequence, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have Yoel Romero fighting and he's my age at 48, what is that consequence? Well, you know, what are we doing here, if you will, right? Gina Carano, Ronda Rousey does move the needle a little bit. You know, how close are they to their MMA primes? I don't know. But Mike Perry and Nate Diaz, 5 rounds of MMA, 5-minute rounds. Yes, please.
What's interesting is Gina Carano has come out and said that Ronda Rousey called her to do the fight. That Rousey was the one who kind of pulled her in a little bit. Now, I know you didn't see this because you are not a pro wrestling guy, but on Sunday night, or last Sunday night, I should say, AEW Wrestling ran Los Angeles, California, and they had a big pay-per-view. They had a pretty good crowd and, you know, decent pay-per-view numbers.
Okay.
But Ronda Rousey jumped the rail and got into the ring and challenged one of AEW's like top stars. Yeah, Cody, but it was kind of like a Rousey heel turn. Now, remember this, when Ronda Rousey left WWE, she crapped on the concept of pro wrestling, even though she probably made, I don't know, $10 million in 2 years of not even being a main eventer in that world. she made big dough. And this fight has to be big dough. And because she kind of alienated WWE, AEW was the next way to maybe get some crossover fans, or it's in LA, create some buzz, things like that. Now, no one remembers the wrestler that she challenged. And I'm not even going to go there because, boy, could I make jokes. However, there you go. Cody found it all. So Ronda Rousey comes into the ring. She points down at this wrestler, Toni Storm, who is for some reason laying at the end of the aisle. AEW is just, it's indie wrestling with a big budget. Thank you, Tony Khan. But there you go. So that's an arena full of people in LA, and Ronda Rousey like shows up. It's pretty crazy, like out of the blue. And when I say there was no one thinking that Ronda Rousey was showing up at AEW, there was no one thinking that, including those people in the building. But I know they just added another fight to the card.
I'm sure the people at Netflix and MVP Promotions are happy that she showed up, right? To just flesh it out. And as you look for that, Ronda Rousey's minus 500 doesn't surprise me. No, I think she's going to be a very good version of herself. I'm very curious what Gina Carano will have for her. Rousey's been working with Ricky Lundell, renowned practitioner. I just, oh boy. Cody, what do we got there?
I just want to keep seeing Gina Carano in these like dresses and outfits and promoting stuff. She's going to get smoked. Like, I know she's going to get smoked, but she's the B side of that main event. But
so Cody sort of adds to the question of sort of bouts of consequence and wonders if this moves the needle more than some of the UFC fights. It really is a good question. If we look back to last weekend, and Cody, I'll even address this to you, Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy, that moves the needle for me. Obviously, two undefeated fighters in the UFC. I'm not saying that was even the most interesting fight, but Mike Perry, Nate Diaz moves the needle for me a ton, right? Rousey Carano, if I'm being honest, doesn't move it. Ronda Rousey moves the needle for me because I think you're going to get a good mixed martial arts version of her.
Yeah.
So that moves the needle up. But Mike Perry, for personal reasons too, I become a friend of mine, but Perry and Nate Diaz, to me, even if I didn't know Mike Perry personally, that moves the needle for me a ton, and probably more than most of these UFC main events.
Yeah, it's interesting what Most Valuable Promotions is putting together. I'm looking at their Twitter right now, and boy, they put on way more boxing events than I thought or was even aware of. They have a ton of that. It looks like MVP Promotions is doing a kind of like a ride along with Ronda Rousey, like her road to this fight. Looks like they're going to kind of put something together on that. I know that damn it. Let me check my likes and see if I just accidentally threw it in there, because I did see a couple of other fights being announced. And again, I give them credit. They're doing a good job of, they're doing a good job of not creating a challenger brand, but can you create challenger events that people get into and that Netflix and these other streamers want to buy? They're never going to challenge UFC, and all of these people made their name in UFC to one degree or another. Now Gina Carano is a little different. For her, it was, she never really made it there and then went into acting and all that kind of stuff. But there's always the UFC connectivity to these kind of events. And look, it's no different than Jake Paul pulling off a boxing event where he got 80,000 people in a big stadium, right? You wonder how in the world they do it, but they have found a way to tap into an alternative or a different fight market to be able to fund what the MVP is doing.
Well, in the star power, if you forget Mike Perry and Gina Carano, right? Ronda Rousey, Nate Diaz, Francis Ngannou, those three names, dare I say, talk about the White House card, but those three names, and with respect to my boy Platinum, I mean, Nate Diaz moves the needle for me. Hamza Chimaev may be the guy that I want to see, but Nate Diaz moves the needle for me. I hope the scar tissue holds up, right? Mike Perry's a dangerous guy coming at you with Nate Diaz scar tissue on his face. But yeah, man, I mean, Nate Diaz moves the needle for me like no other, and to have a little bit of a rooting interest there because of Platinum, Mike Perry, dude.
Hey, Diaz is SoCal, correct? He's not.
No. Well, he's Stockton, 209.
All right. How far is that from LA? I have no concept of California.
I don't know. I think it's not too close.
Okay. The reason that 2 hours is for a one-time fight in the Intuit Dome. I think that's part of I think AEW was in the Intuit Dome, which is part of the reason why Rousey showed up, because that's where that fight is going to be. So what does that say? It's 5 northern. Hours?
Yeah, Sacramento.
Holy geez. Oh my God. So that's an overnight trip for those people, but still they get to see their boy fight. Well, here's the thing. People love Nate Diaz. It's just that simple. If you're an MMA, if you're a UFC fan, you love the guy. If you're an MMA fan, you love the guy. If you're from Stockton, you probably love the guy. That's also a smart fighter to put on a card on that side of the country.
And the buildup with these two guys, they're going to be running their mouths, you can be sure. So I'm just really excited for it. It really moves the needle for me. And Francis Ngannou is scary, right? So they're the odds right there. Yeah, that looks about right. Good for Mike Platinum being favored in this spot. So,
and you know what? And here's what's really interesting to me. Dana White said he met with Nate Diaz to talk about a return to UFC, but got an offer he couldn't refuse from MVP. And Dana White said, "I'm happy for him." Curious for your thoughts on that.
Well, when Rogan said publicly on his watch along that he heard it was north of $10 million for Nate, my guess would be he got his information from Dana White, right? So to me, the UFC is not. I don't believe Nate Diaz making $10 million to show whether it's making the walk from the Oval Office or not. I just don't. And they were able to put it together. I don't know where the relative interest for Mike Perry back in the UFC is. Maybe that was part of this thing, but yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, man. It's really interesting. I'm curious where Diaz will be at, but the Diaz brothers train and he'll be ready. I mean, they got time. I mean, Mike Perry, every time I sort of message him in any way, it's all about the work that he's about to be putting in already. So
yeah, it's I mean, look, they're going to create an event, and they're going to create an event that is going to sell out. So hopefully the fights end up delivering when it's all said and done. And I think they will. It'll be interesting to see the presentation of this. What does the MVP group have up their sleeve? Is this just, hey, we can put on a night of all-stars, like a Legends night, and let these people all go out and do their thing? Or is MVP, do they have bigger plans? Do they want to try to start a small, MMA promotion or UFC type promotion? Or I think they're just interested in doing these one-offs when they can and get in and make the dough and get out.
Exactly. It's the entertainment business juxtaposed to dirty boxing that really is trying to sort of find their own athletes, build their own sort of stars, and really do their own thing and build their own promotion. MVP is trying to put on these big, huge, massive, almost entertainment type events. And frankly, dare I say, you see the UFC going in that direction here and there a little bit as the years have gone on. So I can't hate him for it at all. So we're going to do a little puck here. We almost never talk Bruins. Marco Sturm, hats off, done a pretty good job with this club. Did you see, it was a couple games back, but, Connor Hellebuck, right?
Yeah.
Right. The legend from the Olympics, right?
Sure.
Bruins put up 6 on him a couple games back. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't either. A Boston Bruin could walk in my studio and whip his dick out right now, and I wouldn't know that they were a Boston Bruin. I'll just be straight up honest with you. Like one of the things of being able to do national radio is that I should flip on a Bruins game. Like, I'll be honest with you, for about the first 40 games of the Celtics season, without Jason Tatum, it took me to get confidence in this team to really make sure that I'm in front of the TV to watch a Celtics game. For the first 40, I was very flippant about it. It was more, hey, I'll check the box score than anything else. And you realize the team's good. And then here comes Tatum back, and I'm starting to watch again. The Bruins have done a good job of they're paying for the sins of a couple years ago. Whenever the Bruins went all in on bringing back Krejci and bringing back Rask, and Bergeron came back for one more year, and Marchand was still there. They kicked some cans down the road in terms of money that is paid. That is now just starting to get cleaned up. I think next year the Bruins will have about $15 million in free agency, and that normally turns into 2 or 3 players. You add 2 to 3 of the right players on this roster, you can throw yourself right back into the playoffs and be a consistent division winner. So this year was good from a development standpoint. And Marco Sturm, I'm glad you brought him up. He's been a better coach than I thought he was going to be. I figured he was going to be the dude that was going to babysit for the year where they kind of bottomed out the Bruins and then sort of made their way back next season with a different coach. But it looks like this guy can get the job done.
Yeah, and I love that. And we are so blessed because the organizations in New England, by and large, are just tremendously well run.
Mm-hmm.
You see there the Bruins to make the playoffs -125. They're in that number 1 wild card slot right now. But like 75-1, I'm seeing for them to win the cup. I mean, that implies like no shot, which surprises me a little bit. That's an interesting tournament, that NHL postseason. Or ultimately Swayman in net, are they just not deep enough to really make a deep run? Is that?
I think that's more of the problem, is there isn't enough depth there. Detroit's really the only team that can catch Boston or New York right now with 10 games, let's say 10 to 12 games left in the regular season. And when you look at the teams that are in second place in the division and even third place, the Bruins and the Islanders and the Red Wings point wise, are almost right there. But Buffalo is finally good, right? Everybody's been waiting for Buffalo to make their big comeback. We know that Tampa is always competitive at the right time of year, and there's still Carolina out there. So I think there's at least 3 teams, if not more, who in the East would be favored over the Bruins. AJ, if the Bruins make the playoffs this year with this group that they put together and a first-year new head coach, and they go get pumped in the first round, that's a hell of a year. In my mind, that's a good. I know that people want more, but in hockey, you got to kind of wait for that space to open up to, the cap is very different in the NHL than it is in the NBA and the NFL in terms of workarounds and guarantees and things like that. But shit, I mean, if Sturm gets them to the playoffs, again, you say they get steamrolled by Buffalo, who really cares? They were good enough to make the playoffs this year, and at the beginning of the year, that was not at the top of mind for Bruins fans, I don't believe.
Well, and they're -225 to get there. So likely they're going to achieve or overachieve, as you're saying, for the season. But I'd much rather talk about round ball, as you would too. Tough loss last night for the Celtics home to Minnesota. Minnesota just got sort of hot. They had a big stretch in the fourth quarter where they went 13-0 run or whatever it was and just sort of put the lights out on Joe Mazzulla's boys. But 82-game season, it's going to happen. Tatum looks so comfortable and normal, dare I say, lack of a better word, out there. Your thoughts on what you've seen from the captain thus far in his return?
I mean, it's very easy to see why he took so long in wanting to come back, because he wanted to be the closest version to himself. It wasn't a guy who's going to kind of work his way into the lineup. However, he is working his way back into what I would call NBA shape, right? This isn't about running and wind and being able to play certain minutes. I'm talking about, the effort that you have to give on defense sometimes and how it affects your offense and in the short term, how does it affect you?
Yep.
Shooting the basketball again in these big arenas, you can work on it in the gym, but the whole mosaic and the backdrop, Lord knows they played a bunch of games in St. Louis in the NCAA tournament. I think it's called the Enterprise Center, notorious for unders because from a shooting standpoint, it's weird visually for some of these guys. So it's more of the Jason Tatum getting back to being able to do the NBA things, the leaning on people, the playing defense, the rebounding. It's not, is he in shape or is he not? No, the guy's in tremendous shape. And yeah, he's coming back from a big injury, but he now has to get reacclimated after a full year away. And let's not underplay that.
Yep.
Of playing the game the way it's played at that level. He's talented enough to fit in, but there is still an integration process going on, I think, with Jason Tatum.
I agree. There are just some moments of aggression that to me it's sort of that pass the eye test where he does look like the alpha out there to me. And that's what I like to see, where there's some opportunities where he's aggressive, maybe taking it to the rim with two defenders there, where if he was so worried about the Achilles, he'd be sort of dishing it. And I'm not seeing any of that, which gives me a lot of confidence. And obviously it's a recency bias thing. Last night, there were some things that weren't great, but obviously the fact that Jaylen Brown has been able to elevate in this sense. So let's look at some odds here. Cody's talking about this line movement. Obviously, Celtics are now favored to win in the Eastern Conference. You see Cade Cunningham has that collapsed lung, which obviously is a fly in the ointment for the Detroit Pistons. That certainly matters to me. That's one of those injuries. That's a big injury for a team that maybe was more of a regular season outfit, according to some experts. I think the Knicks are still problematic. The Celtics are half a game up on the Knicks right now, in one game in the loss column. I think that 2-3 seed very well could dictate the winner of that series.
Yeah, I really do believe that Detroit will kind of slide back at least a little bit. How can they not? And they got to take care of the kid, Cade Cunningham, because he's their franchise player. So they can't. They got to be, as much as they would love to capitalize on this year, they got to be careful with the kid in terms of moving forward. It does feel like New York is the real kind of speed bump on the way to the NBA Finals. I don't worry about the Celtics dealing with Cleveland. It's more of the grit and the grind and what the Knicks offer. Now, a couple of things. A month ago, the Celtics were plus 380. They were in that Knicks spot. I can't tell the Knicks are 360 or 380 right 380. There. So that's where the Celtics were about 3 weeks ago. Is they were the 380 team. Now they're the plus 160 because Tatum has come back. And you know what, Jay? He said, hey, I want to come back and I want to be me. And the numbers haven't completely popped just yet. But if you look at the career averages for Jason Tatum, on the whole, field goal attempts per game, he's in the 18, 19, 20 per game, and he's at 17.4 through 8 games so far. So it's not far off from where he would normally be. And in terms of 3-point attempts, he's right there with the way he's always played, around 9 attempts per game. So the shots are there. We're just waiting for the consistency and the efficiency to be able to go up. But all the numbers look normal. I think he's just getting, given 20 games to get back into the algorithm and the physicality of the NBA. And I think this team should be peaking around playoff time, Jay. We got a month left. And the Celts have played, I think, 70 games to this point. So Tatum will get 10 more under his belt and then, go smash Orlando in the first round.
Well, hopefully get Vucevic back. I think that's a big piece, believe it or not.
He should be back for the playoffs, yeah.
Yep. So for me, right, betting on the Celtics, right, I'm more apt to bet on the other side of this. I played them 10-1 when I was in Vegas recently. I like the Celtics. I think the Eastern Conference is somewhat wide open. The West, the greatness of the high end team in the Western Conference. Obviously OKC, a lot of people put on the pedestal. There are some floaters out there, maybe San Antonio. Some people like Denver, but obviously the way the standings, Denver, I believe, may be the 6th seed right now. But I want to ask you a question, and you may laugh. Maybe the Lakers defensively are just so inept that it's laughable. But I can't believe that I'm getting a price like 40-1 on the Lakers to win the championship. Like, they've won a lot of games in a row. Luka Doncic is absolutely a top 5 NBA player, supported by LeBron James. They got Ayton playing at a high level. I like the kid Reeves. I know they're not that deep and not that good defensively, but that is a team. So Lakers 18-1 to win the conference. So I got a better price recently, but what are the Lakers to win the championship, right? Even 18-1 to win the West. That price is no. Okay, talk to me. No shot.
You just give that money to Cody. It'd be better used.
I love
really
this.
Would.
Tell me why the Lakers have no shot this year. I want to hear it.
Okay, so right now the Lakers would, as a 3 seed, they let's say they got to beat Phoenix in the first round, who's 7 games over 500. Not crazy. Now, if it's 3-6, here's your problem. The Lakers, who I give Luka credit, changed his body. He's tried to play defense. The problem is he can't, and his heart's really not into it. So your first round matchup, if you're the Lakers right now, is Ant-Man and Minnesota. So they're going to have to give great effort to get by them. And then they're going to turn around and likely in a 2-3 matchup, deal with San Antonio and Wemby, who they have no counter for. And if somehow old man LeBron goes back to being 32 years old and finds a way to steal that series, then they have Oklahoma City waiting for them. They are not beating that lineup of superstars. Because their best player, LeBron James, is
second best player.
Oh, I think he's their best player.
Okay,
because he's complete. Luka's nice as long as the other team's not trying to score.
LeBron, though, defensively right now can't do much.
Yeah, but that was going to be my point, is that the version of LeBron right now is lesser than what he was when he was Superman. And there isn't enough from Luka there to make it up, I don't think. I believe that that Lakers number is that high because they are luring you in on the reputation of LeBron James and Luka Doncic to try to get the suckers to plunk down the money, when arguably right now the Lakers might have the toughest road of anyone to be able to get to the NBA Finals if they got to beat Minnesota, San Antonio, and then Oklahoma City.
No, that's a great point. And depending on how things structure, they could be facing Denver in the first round even, and not Phoenix. So that's interesting. Yeah, I think the line indicates how much of they're a big dog to come out of that conference for a reason. LeBron earlier in the season said we're not a championship team, and maybe even though they're hot, that still remains the truth.
So here's the thing. I know they're on a 9-game heater. The best thing for the Lakers would be the 4 seed. I mean, if you really think about it, being a 4-5, yes, that does put you with Oklahoma City in the second round.
Gotta beat them at some point.
But that's the thing. Like, if you're the Lakers and you switch spots with the Nuggets, then you're playing the Rockets in the first round. Like bring me Ime's crew in the first round if I'm the Lakers, to where I don't have to deal with Jokic, or I don't have to deal with. I mean, think about it. Here's the decision that you would be making if you're the Lakers. Could we get into the 4-5 and play Houston? Because I'd rather play Kevin Durant than Jokic or Ant-Man. You think of it that way, it's like, okay, that's your way through. But, you mentioned the West and why are the numbers so wonky? Bro, look at this. I mean, think about it. I just made a joke about Kevin Durant being on one of those playoff teams. But when you look at the star power, everybody is loaded at important spots, or they have a Jokic type unicorn that you really don't have anybody that can match up against the guy. But look at that Clippers roster. They've been throwing money at the Clippers roster forever. They're at least 8th. They might make the playoffs this year. So you throw Kawhi into the mix of all these superstars or guys who might be able to throw a team on their shoulders, right? And then you got Portland, and then you still have the rotting corpse of the Golden State Warriors. God forbid they wake up one day and are like zombies, and the next thing you know, there's an old-ass Warrior team out there, like those old-ass men who would be at like the public courts in Santa Monica or whatever, just running game on people.
I love it. I've played those courts at Santa Monica. It's great stuff there. Yeah, but gosh, it's like you even think about a team like Houston. Man, they're up against it just really in terms of just maybe not quite being on the level of those other teams. But that's a good club. If they get Van Vliet back, maybe they can move the needle a little bit. I think this is the type of year that if the Celtics can get things right, they're as ripe as anyone to go chase a chip. Go ahead.
Hey, here's the thing. Getting through the East is the easy part for the Celtics, in my opinion. Who will be waiting for them? Because as you and I just talked about, Oklahoma City presents differently than San Antonio, different than, say, Denver, different than Minnesota. They're all unique and different teams. I mean, if the Celtics ended up with Denver, we'd be like, shit, they got Jokic. You know what I mean? Like you would look at that guy. So if it's Wemby, how would they match up if it's the Spurs on the other side? I think it's really unique matchups, and there are some that I think are terrible for the Celtics.
Okay, so on that note, and we can get back to which one you think would be particularly terrible, but we know that if OKC faced Boston in the finals, OKC would be favored, right?
100%.
San Antonio, Boston, I think would be pretty close. Would you agree with that?
I think San Antonio would be a pretty prohibitive favorite.
Interesting.
As
prohibitive. Wow.
I think it would be them like minus 190 to win the series type favorite.
Okay. And what about Denver? Or what are some of the teams?
Denver's a little different because it's really all on Jokic, and there are some injuries on that Denver roster that might kind of level things out a little bit. I think if it's Celtics Thunder are the favorite. Celtics Spurs are the favorite. If it's somehow Celtics Celtics are the favorite. If it's Celtics Denver, probably pretty even when it's all said and done. And I think the Celtics would be a favorite over the Timberwolves.
Minnesota won in Boston for the first time since 2005 last night without Anthony Edwards.
Bro, think of the murderer's row of superstars you have to get through in the Western Conference. I mean, even if Oklahoma City holds serve, let's say,
right,
they could end up playing the Clippers in the first round, or they can end up playing old ass Golden State in the first round.
Right, you got Kawhi or Steph Curry coming to mess you a little bit.
Right. And then in the second round, it could be LeBron, it could be Jokic, it could be Ant-Man, it could be Durant. Like, how beat up will the West winner be when they play Boston in the NBA Finals? That's the other, thing. Now that the Celtics are on cruise control, don't get me wrong, but if they only play one tough series along the way and it's against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then you're sitting there and waiting for a team that got bloody from the first round on, now we're talking.
So are there any teams in the East that you believe that aren't in that sort of top group? Celtics, Cavs, Knicks, Pistons. Every other team is 40-1 or great, right? Magic, Sixers, Heat. I think you would laugh maybe. The Sixers, I do not want to deal with that backcourt.
I would agree. I don't want to deal with Philadelphia along the way. Boston can beat them, but that's the one team that and here's the other thing too. What am I getting out of Embiid that particular day?
Right.
If you get 7 games of good Joel Embiid, that's a tough out. I don't care.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. And then they beat Boston, and then the next series he doesn't play. I mean, that's how it goes down. But good stuff today. Good stuff on the NBA. I will say it was interesting when Cody brought in the question about the MVP promotions, the May 16th fight on Netflix versus some of this UFC stuff, because I will say, getting Evloev Lerone Murphy in a true title eliminator last weekend, very, very high stakes, very, very high level mixed martial artist, that sort of proves that point. And I'm very happy with that result, because Evloev did deserve to win that fight. He's been denied every step of the way. He beat Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez fought for that title twice. I mean, I could go on and on. So as much as I love Lerone Murphy and think he would have been a game challenger, I'm very happy for Movsar Evloev emerging from that spot.
Yeah, I'm a little behind on my UFC with the NCAA tournament. I admit, I didn't turn away. I am excited to dig in on what went down this weekend, but
all right. So
hold on. Let me ask you this: would you rather train a day with John Jones or play flag football with Tom Brady?
That's easy for me, is Tom Brady football, because I don't train MMA.
All right.
But
I did, by the way, I did play in a flag football game with Tom Brady once. I don't know if I told you. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. So Brady just had that fanatics, and really, here, look, Brady's now doing the Lord's work for the NFL. The NFL wants to push flag football for younger kids, so that way they can, avoid the concussion stuff. So there's the Olympics part of it. I get it. But for the NFL, to me, this is really, hey, look at us. We're good guys. We'll let those brains develop until they're 14 before they start hitting and things like that. And Brady is helping them doing the Lord's work. But in 2010, Jay, when I was working at the Sports Hub, Brady was a part of the Best Buddies flag football game. Best Buddies, they place developmentally disabled people with jobs that are fit for them, right? My agent is involved in this and all that kind of stuff. So they did the Tom Brady celebrity football game. And the first year they did it, they weren't taking checks from people to just play in the game. Now it's basically pay to play. So you got, Herb Chambers Jr. out there or something like that running around because he could write a big check, right? But in the first year, it was a lot of media rubes and stuff. I'm the center, okay? Now, I was allowed to go out for passes. And I was doing some shotgun snapping, and I snapped one bad. And Brady snapped at me. He goes, I know you're an O-lineman. Snap that shit right. Something like that. I'm like, okay. So I literally started taking it more seriously. 3 plays later, Brady goes, dude, no one's covering you. He's like, you're going to snap it to me, and you're going to run down the field, and I'm going to throw you one. And I said to him, I go, bro, I have bad hamstrings. Put it on me. Don't make me reach. He's like, yeah. What's he make me do? Reach. I pull a hamstring pretty bad. It's literally bruising up as we're walking off the field. Now, Albert Breer was there, and Matt Light, who will remember this, Matt Light and Dan Copen were also there as well. And they had like Guy Fieri come in and cook. So we're all walking off the field and stuff like that. And my now soon-to-be 24-year-old, who was like 8 at the time, something like that. He got to meet Tom Brady. It was the greatest day of his life. He took a picture, like my wife, like almost shit her pants on the sideline, Well, we're walking off the field, and I'm limping really bad. And Albert, so it's me, it's Connor, my oldest, me, Breer, and then Light and Copen. And I'm limping like a mofo, really bad. And Breer goes, can't make the club in the tub. And my youngest, without missing a beat, he's like 8 years old. He goes, look at the size of him. He wouldn't fit in the tub. And Matt Light almost peed on the spot. He like reached around and was like, that's a great one, kid. Like, he was loving it that they were busting my balls. But yeah, I did catch a pass from Brady out in the flat.
I love it.
Yeah. And there were some other things that Brady would, even in things like that, Brady gets crazy. This is 2010. He was still getting competitive and yelling at us if, he's like, you got to chip that guy coming off the edge. He doesn't get to me. It's pretty interesting. But that flag football thing, yeah, that's That's a whole bunch of horse shit last night.
Yeah, I think Gronk tore his hamstring in that game. Like where
it wouldn't surprise me.
Almost like after a play, he caught a 2-point conversion, and then but I didn't watch much of this. But yeah, it is what it is. Happy to see Tommy out there. I think he could still play in the league, no problem.
You know what's funny? There's no question about that. Yeah, if you can protect him, absolutely. I wrote in Gronk hurt. Did you know that there's a Twitter account called Is Gronk Hurt from back in the day? I had no idea that this thing like even existed.
Hey, real quick before we get out of here, first Israel Adesanya, Joe Pyfer. Adesanya -142, Pyfer +120. I love Israel Adesanya, but I think this is a little bit of a changing of the guard spot here. I think Dean Thomas going to remain in the corner of Joe Pyfer. I think maybe he does get him down there and sort of elbow him. And okay, I see the nod there. Plus money.
I don't want to say that Izzy is washed, but to your point, I like the way you said it. That's gentle.
Yeah,
changing of the guard. So this is the one where we're going to learn that maybe Izzy is kind of past due.
And you can get us out of here, but finally, Cody put in Jackson Smith and Jigba, 4 years, $169 million. That's north of $42 million a year for arguably the best receiver in football. I think they had maybe tagged him and then ripped that up. That's good coin.
No, it's very good coin. It's pretty interesting. I know that deal had come due, but they knew they were trading DK Metcalf. That's some bad business to not get that guy on paper a year earlier, and now he holds you up for $42 million a year or something like that.
I hear you, but it's like a year early. It's like it just goes up and up and up and up and up and up and up. No matter what it is, it's always, you know what I mean? So that contract for JSN is probably going to look great in 18 months,
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that we're now at, when you get into $40 million a year, there are not a lot of teams that are willing to pay a wideout. Yeah, $40 million in a season. But I mean, think about it. When they're looking to trade DK Metcalf, if you go to JSN and probably offer him 4 for $80, he takes it. Now you're projecting the guy's going to be amazing, but that's also a part of your job, and it's a part of your job on your roster to protect it. Whenever you're going to move on from a number one, you're going to have somebody that's going to elevate into that spot. I don't know. It just feels like it feels like a lot of money for a guy who's had 1 year of $40 million production.
Well, but let's say they had signed him, right?
Yeah.
Isn't he like not showing up to camp now and wanting a new deal after what he did last year? That's
maybe sort of. But you know what? Yeah, I maybe, but I'd rather have him on the short money or maybe overpay him. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, I'm the one who even rolled out the scenario of how they could New England could string along Christian Gonzalez for 3 years if they want to, and have every right to be able to do so. So, I mean, I think bad teams. Like we would have known New England was effed if they would have looked at guys like Jaylen Hawkins and Kayvon Chason and said, no, we got to overpay to keep those guys out of free agency. That's what your bad organizations do. And look, JSN might be a great player, but is he going to give you $42 million of production every year? It's kind of highly unlikely.
Very good stuff.
All right, there we go, brother. That's it. Here we go. A little gas OT on our first Monday morning sojourn. Jay's got some dirty boxing coming up. PGF in it, right?
PGF. Right in the middle of the Professional Grappling Federation 2026 season. Every Wednesday, we got this Wednesday, week 4, then week 5. The following Wednesday is the final week of the regular season, and then the playoff the following week. And shout out our new sponsor, Cody Merrow's own Low Score.
Yeah,
Golf.
baby.
I gotta wear some fresh gear. I got this sweatshirt pretty fresh. I got the little side piece too with the Low Score. Forgive me, Cody, but appreciate you, Bone.
Look at that. Good, very good stuff. Thanks to Bone Marrow, and enjoy the Anik and Florian podcast. I'm assuming that it's coming up later today. There's no way.
Right, double dip.
There's no way John got up at 7:30 to beat us to air. There's no way on that. And I don't know Kenny Florian, so I ain't making no jokes. The only, you know what I did though? There was a dude who used to come to the Patriots post games who looked like Kenny Florian. He'd come to us and say, "Hey, I'm Kenny's cousin." Like that was his end. This was like 15 years ago. He was a diehard. He was literally at every post. It was weird. But I knew that, God forbid something got frisky. There was somebody there who had some genes in him who might be able to do something. All right. That's it for us. He's Jay. I'm Gresh. We will see you right here next week for another edition of Gas.